Well, that was a movie.
Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon. This is Carmen from Deep Fried Thoughts podcast. I'll link it below. Today we're giving our first thoughts on Alien Romulus, which is the new Alien movie, of course. Directed and written by Fede Alvarez, starring Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson, who I've been a fan of Kaylee Spaney for a while now. Love her. David Johnson, though, I thought stole the show. I thought he was fantastic. If you don't know anything about the timeline of Alien and stuff, this is sort of a prequel, sort of a sequel. It takes place in between Alien and Aliens. So it's snuck right in there while Sigourney Weaver's asleep. And so that's pretty much all you need to know. It's a whole different cast of characters. Nobody that we've seen from the previous Aliens, character-wise, at least. Good old Xenomorph is there, obviously. But, yeah, so backing up to talk about the rest of the franchise briefly, I'll admit, I haven't seen Prometheus, I haven't seen Alien Covenant, I've really only seen the first two, Alien and Aliens, and then I've seen, I saw the Nostalgia Critics review of Alien 3, which basically means I've seen it, but I haven't really. You've seen all of them, you said, right?
Yeah, I watch them pretty regularly. I absolutely love those movies. It was one of the first horror franchises I got really into as a kid. Mostly just watching the first two, repeatedly.
Yeah. So, in case you're not familiar with the franchise, the first one was directed by Ridley Scott. It's kind of a straightforward monster horror movie, but in space was kind of the twist. You've got an alien in space versus, some sort of monster thing on Earth. And it's a great movie. It's a classic. It's just kind of straightforward horror, though. The second one, which was written and directed by James Cameron, switches to more of a sci-fi action thriller rather than a horror. And this one, it was kind of advertised as kind of returning to the roots a little bit of more straightforward horror. And I think parts of it were, but it definitely had some of the cheesy action movie stuff in there too.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the vibe of this movie?
I absolutely loved it.
Okay.
From the second it started.
Yeah.
And you see all the old 80s style knobs and the way they did the computer screens. It
Even
felt
the
like I went through a time.
Were old.
Yeah.
I love that.
I just felt like I went through a time machine. And
yeah.
There's been a couple movies that have got me with that, right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
The Holdovers was the last one I saw that really was wow, this feels like it came out a long time ago. And this one had a lot of that. I mean, obviously there was some CGI and all, but it felt like an old Alien movie.
Yeah.
It felt like it fit in right with the originals.
Yeah, there was a lot of practical effects, despite the amount of CGI that they had to use and did use. Mm-hmm. There was definitely a lot of practical effects in there, from the xenomorphs being practical a lot of the time. The face huggers run around, you could tell at times, oh, those are remote control things, but it's you're enjoying the fact that they're actually there. Yeah. And then even the spaceships, I haven't confirmed this or anything, but I felt like they were filmed models. They weren't
felt like
CGI.
That. I kept thinking, I wonder if they found a way to do that with CGI to give that weird effect, but that is exactly what it looked like.
It felt like at least some of it was models, which I really appreciated.
Especially in the beginning, the opening scene.
Yeah, the opening scene was frankly my favorite part of this movie.
It was so good. It set the tone.
To me, so I'm going to back up a little bit because I didn't give my opinions. Obviously, so the first one, like I said, it's a classic. It's practically flawless. I think the only flaw you can point out in the first movie was simply the era it came out in, because at the end of the movie, the alien's just a guy in a rubber suit, and you're like, okay. So that's the only flaw with that movie to me. The second one, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the second one. I know that's sacrilegious to say, but I don't like James Cameron. I kind of felt like I was missing the horror elements a lot, and I didn't like the 80s cheesy action feel to that one. And so I'm going to say one of the most sacrilegious things you'll ever hear in the world. I think I kind of like this more than the second one. This might be my second favorite Alien movie right now.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I don't have much complaints at all. I want to say I loved every second of it. There was a couple little things.
Yeah.
Like one CGI scene I really wish they just cut out, because it took me out of it because of how real everything else looked.
Yeah.
We can talk about that later, but
if you're thinking about the same scene I'm thinking of, it really, for a second, ruined the whole movie for me.
For a split second towards the end.
And then the ending was so good, I was like, and all is forgiven.
Yeah.
Because for me, this movie, the beginning is, like I said, it's the best part. and then the middle, it kind of slowly slows down as it goes. And it gets a little silly, gets a little cheesy at times. There's a ridiculous scene that, like, all logic and any sort of semblance of a plot goes out the window, and you're like, what are we doing? And then the ending, which we'll get to in spoilers, was like, oh, by the way, this is one of your favorite movies of the year now. And I was like, okay, all right, all is forgiven.
Yeah, that really surprised me.
Yeah.
You know, every time they jump back into, and they, like Hollywood, jumps back into an old franchise, we've seen it fail so many times, and so for something like this that I absolutely adore, every time I go into one as an adult, I'm waiting for that huge disappointment.
Yeah.
And I, like I said to you when we were walking in, I was like, I love these movies to a degree where I don't want to look up what people are saying about them, because I have truly enjoyed every one of them in its own way. So if you've liked the direction they've been going, like this, or just like the franchise as a whole, this fits in so incredibly well. I'm excited to watch them in sequence now with this one in the middle.
Yeah,
kind of like how Rogue One was. It kind of made me go back and really enjoy, knowing what happened between films. It's pretty special.
I was just about to bring up Rogue One too, because the discourse before this movie was, is it Rogue One or is it Force Awakens? Now I know you like Force Awakens, but
it hasn't aged.
It hasn't aged.
I think when I look at Star Wars, another one going around here, I've gone back to, outside of Rogue One, the original movies are really all I want to ever watch.
Amen. But so I hated Force Awakens from the jump, but I get why people like it. But what it is, it's just like nostalgia bait and kind of nothing new or original being brought to the table. And some people were saying that's what this was, and then other people were saying no, it's Rogue One. And Rogue One, whether you like it or not, it is the highest quality Star Wars movie since the original six. It is. And and I was going into this going like, I think it's going to be Rogue One. Based on the trailers, I really enjoyed the trailers. Based on the fact that it's that same kind of thing as Rogue One, where it's like complete new cast of characters, no connection to anybody we've seen before, so they can all die, and we won't, and nothing will change. And so I was like, I feel like this is Rogue One. And when it started, I was like, this is. And then there was that section in the middle where things got cheesy, and they even had a couple of references where they're quoting lines from the other movies, and I hate that stuff. I know one made you laugh, and I was like, come on, lock in. But then, the ending of it, though, really redeemed it again, where I'm like, this is not, it's not Rogue One, but it kind of is, in the way that Rogue One...
It's their franchise's version of it.
Yeah, and Rogue One, you may not remember a whole lot about it, but what you will remember is the end scene. And that's what this is too, is this movie, it's well made for the most part, some really good stuff, some really cheesy stuff, but what you're going to walk away from this movie is, holy shit, that ending was awesome.
Yeah,
at least good. I am. Like, I'm not the biggest Alien fan in the world, so maybe it'll offend some people. I don't know. I really liked it.
I'm telling you, I absolutely loved it. And good. I got a good feeling, because I was like, all right, you're just going to take it easy and see how this goes. And then from the moment, like, it had that silent opening, I was like, I was already in from the second the movie began. I mean, literally the split second, I was hands down kind of gripping up my seat, ready for something to come out and get me. And it just never ended. Even like the lulls, I felt like it was a chance to relax and pay attention a little bit more until the next, intense scene. Yeah. I went full in on this movie. I let it just take me to, whatever place it wanted, and I had a blast. And
so one thing I'll say too is, I'll bring up both Aliens and Rogue One for comparisons here. But so one thing that Aliens bugged me with, as opposed to the first one, I already said the horror and the whole genre change threw me off, but it was also the characters. In the first Alien, you had so many good characters. Every character, I mean, it was partially the cast was brilliant. You had John Hurt, you had Ian Holm, you had Sigourney Weaver. The second one, all the characters are like stereotypes. You got the really dumb Marines, you've got this evil businessman. I was just like, it's all so cliche, it's so 80s. I was just like, not into this. And then Rogue One, if you have an issue with that, it's like the cast, it's all new, but once again, nothing memorable, no new interesting character. In this, it was a whole new cast of characters, and not every character is supposed to be memorable, but the ones that were supposed to be, I thought were. Like I already mentioned Andy, the android. I loved him. I thought he was so good.
He was excellent.
And then I've said it again, fan of Kaylee Spaney. I thought she was good. And yeah, you could argue, all right, well, there was some forgettable, just asshole guys. Like, sure. But you need some forgettable people in there that can, well, be there. I'll say that. So I don't know. I think that went a long way, is just having characters that you were invested in finding out what was going to happen with them.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to think of what else we can say that's not spoiler related, because we're going to have a long spoiler section, I'm sure.
I would say go see it.
Yeah, go see it if you're a fan of the franchise. And I'll say, I really, leading up to this, wasn't really interested in seeing Prometheus and Alien Covenant. Like, I didn't have much of a desire to. I saw Aliens for the first time painfully recently, and that kind of confirmed. I was like, I just kind of want to leave Alien alone, because it's such a perfect movie.
Oh, they're so different. Each film is like a different arc, a different direction, style.
And now having seen this, I'm like, I'm willing to try again.
Yeah,
I'm willing to be hurt again. I want to see the rest of this and see the rest of the prequel stuff, because this is still technically, I think, part of that prequel trilogy that Ridley Scott had planned. I don't know if it is or not, but like with the Prometheus and Alien Covenant, I don't know if this is supposed to be connected to that or not, because he said he was going to make 3 or 4 movies, and he didn't make this one, but he produced it. I don't know. Regardless, I'm actually interested in seeing those movies now, where I wasn't really for the longest time. So, like, I don't know. New fan of the franchise, I guess.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what you think about Covenant. Mm-hmm. That was the first time I went back where I was just completely blown away. And I was like, it was just a fun movie. All the things you'd expect in, I guess it's really just like the 80s movies. Like the cheesy action, knowing what's coming, but enjoying it every step of the way. Yeah, I loved that movie.
All right, so that's what we had to think, spoiler free. This is definitely a recommendation. I think it's an imperfect but enjoyable movie. I'll put it that way. Like I said, the beginning and the end are my favorite parts. There's some good parts in the middle too. I think not everybody will enjoy the middle section as much as we did, but it is, to me, man, what would you rate this?
I'm gonna go high.
Okay, probably higher
it's
than me.
Totally biased. I'm going 9. I can't. I just, if you're, I'm taking this as part of the Alien genre. It is a 9. It did so well at. It did so well at placing itself right in the middle and just being right at home. I absolutely loved it. I love this movie.
So where am I with this?
You could do a 9 too. It's all right.
I'm not gonna. What I was thinking was probably like a soft 7. Like, I enjoyed this a lot, but it is silly.
Yeah.
But for the sake of balancing out the 9, I'm going to go with the 6, so we get a good round number there. I
feel like 8 was more realistic, but I'm boosting it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I'm living off of the high right now. I'm riding that wave.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I feel like 6.5 isn't enough for me, and so like 7 feels like a lot, but it's like somewhere in between that range where I'm just like, so I enjoyed it. Sure. Maybe I'll regret saying that later when I'm editing and I'm like, really? You gave it a 7? But like, that's how I feel about it right now. So
that's right. I'm feeling like I gave a little bit too much. So, maybe we're both in the middle.
It's fine. So that's what we had to think. We're going to get into spoilers now, though. So if you want to stick around for that, please do. But if you don't want anything spoiled, click away, go watch it first, and then come back and we can talk about it then. Also, remember to please like, share, and subscribe if you're new here. Thanks, guys. Bye.
See ya.
So, spoilers. Where do we want to begin? There's a decent amount here. So for me, the first big thing was Ian Holm coming back, which was just more confusing than anything to me, because like we were looking it up before and I'm like, is he supposed to be the same android or not? He's got a different name, but it's clearly him, and they de-aged him grotesquely with the horrible CGI. And I'm like, what is going on with Ian Holm? Why is he here? Clearly all the other androids, every other android we see looks different. Is that because they're different models?
I would think models, because when he was talking to him at that one point, saying like, you're historical,
yeah,
and you paved the way for me.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine there's different models with different features.
I guess so. it felt so necessary bringing Ian Holm back. That was one of the moments that felt like Force Awakens to me, where I'm like, we just did that just to, along with the quotes of like, get away from her, you bitch type stuff. I'm like, why are we doing that?
It was interesting to see the heavy CGI on the face and then like the absolute, like just the model. Like, it was like a real like
prosthetics or whatever.
Because
like I'm assuming he was. Well, I don't even know if he was there. If there's a person there, like he's in the table and then they've got a fake body laying on the table or whatever. And that part of it's cool and practical and awesome. And then you're right. And then it's just in stark contrast to this awful looking CGI face. Yeah. And you're like, why did we
it's felt hard like to fade from one to the other.
It felt like something you'd see at Disneyland, where it's like they've got the animatronics, but now they've started doing the projections things.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what it felt like. I was like, this is such a weird contrast. And frankly, there was multiple parts in the middle section of this movie that felt like it was there for an amusement park ride. And I was like, that's frustrating to me. Are you
talking about the acid?
Not specifically, but that is one of them. But like the whole thing with Ian Holm's character popping up on various screens, like, now be careful when you go through here. I'm like, and I'm at Disney World.
See, I was getting video game vibes.
Okay, maybe that's
I really
what they were going for.
I like the Alien games too, and I was like, a lot of scenes. I was like, this looks so video game-ish. I hope this is going to make it into some new game. That makes me dislike it less because now I feel like they're paying homage, because it felt like to me it was an amusement park ride, and they're like giving you directions for this section, stay away from the railings. And I'm like, what are we doing? But if it's paying homage to the video games, then I'm like, okay, I appreciate what you're doing then, and I don't like that. But that's the feel I got. I got like a very similar feel. Not so much that it was paying homage to a specific one, but that's just like kind of the tone I got from it. But I also I gave it a lot of forgiveness for the cheesiness, as like they were really trying to go for like. It didn't feel like somebody who was really into 80s movies was like, hey, I'm going to make an 80s movie. It felt like somebody from the 80s was like, hey, this is how we used to do this, so we're going to do it that way, or this is how we used to write these things, so we're going to do it. It felt like they held true to that more than trying to make the perfect movie, and it made me appreciate it that much more. Times change, cinema changes. This felt like almost like, if anything, an actual homage was to just old 80s films.
Yeah.
More than just the Alien movies, but like just in general.
In general, yeah. I can see that. I think some of it was dangerously close to Marvel humor too, but I think Marvel humor began as probably an 80s homage anyway, and then just snowballed into what it is now. Yeah. And I'm not really a huge fan of either style or genre. I've said before on this channel that I think the 80s is the worst decade of films, and I think we disagree on that.
It's purely I mean, that's what I grew up with.
Yeah. And so I think like it's interesting when you see a really well-made thing that is paying homage to something you don't like. I've talked about that before too with like Kill Bill, where Tarantino is one of the best directors of this era, and he's paying homage to these really cheesy, over-the-top kung fu movies that I hate, but he's doing the homage so well that it's like, okay, but I kind of appreciate the movie for the homage, even if I don't give a crap about what we're paying homage to. Somebody had asked the director, like, so why Romulus? And he's like, oh, it's the name of the spaceship. And everybody just went, oh, okay. And it's like, it's gotta have deeper meaning than that. And I think this, to me, is what I was saying, is like, we've created a whole second line of aliens now. And I'm getting ahead of us, I guess, because we didn't talk about the ending yet, but I think the ending is showing that there's a whole new line now of aliens that have been genetically mutated in a different way, because that's what all Prometheus was, from what I understand, is showing how we genetically got to Alien, the xenomorph, and now this is like, oop, and now there's a different line that you didn't know about.
I need to go watch Prometheus again, because I need to look at which movie was set where, because looking at it, like when they were talking about life, I was like, oh, that's part of Prometheus. And then when she injected herself and that thing came out, and when it was fully formed, it resembled,
in a way, Prometheus.
Yeah. And I was like, there's more to this that I'm missing, because there was so much happening, and that was one of the things I was excited to look up online and see if somebody could piece some of that together.
I had tapped out at this point because of the anti-gravity thing. I was thinking in my head, like, damn, this movie had potential and it lost me. This movie could have been good, was what I was thinking already. I was ready to give that speech in the car. And then
Were you feeling that way when they got into the ship and she was loading up the pregnant girl?
Yeah.
That was at that moment. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then she had injected herself, which I did remember, and I was like, this is gonna come back. I don't know how though. And then it comes back with she gives birth to this alien-human hybrid, which we mentioned resembles in a slight way Prometheus. And it was like, and I'm all the way back in, because why I had tapped out was, it was like, we're making safe decisions, we're doing easy things, we're doing references and callbacks and lame stuff, and then it's like, how about we do a decision that is so bold and out there and wild, and it's going to alienate and piss off half of our audience. And I went, I'm all the way back in, and I love this. It
was so weird. I loved it. I loved it, every second of it.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be happy with her just like her stomach growing and then them just ending it and like having a cliffhanger. And then I feel like we got a whole new ending. It was like the movie just arced again and then like brought us on a whole new ride.
Yeah.
I thought that was so, it was so unexpected. And there was so much more like content left. They crammed a lot into that 2 hours.
It does follow the alien motif though, if it's always got a second end.
Yeah.
They always do that. And I will say, kind of like, I had this idea when I saw Rogue One that I was like, if they don't kill everybody, they're like pussying out or whatever. And I felt that way about this too. I'm like, all right, well, you could have just killed the last character. You were so close, and I kind of wish they did, but I was still so happy with taking that risk and doing something so weird and unique that I'm like, I can't really be mad that you let her go, because hey, maybe we'll make a sequel with her and I won't be mad about it. Let's knock out this hallway anti-gravity acid scene. You want to start on this?
Did you know where it was going right off the bat?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And it was stupid right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because that's not how gravity works.
Yeah, I know. When they were going through it and it was spinning, I was like, it just, I don't know. There was a lot. I went a little brain dead and enjoyed it. I liked how it ended. It took you right out of it with her shooting herself down. Because while it was happening, that was one of the cheesier scenes in the movie. But I also want to ask, maybe I missed something. In the beginning when they first enter the ship, and they're talking about why the gravity kicks on. And they're saying every couple minutes it, resets itself.
Yeah.
But that was when the ship was like in that weird like hibernation mode.
Yeah, I think just anytime you turned it off, it would do that, was what they were implying. So when they turned off the gravity again, it immediately went to that setting.
Not that I go like, I think I should think like this in a movie like that. But that seems like, who the hell designed that? Yeah. Because that seems extremely dangerous and worthy of killing people. Incredibly
stupid.
I was confused when that happened afterwards, when the ship had gained power and she manually turned it off.
Yeah.
Also,
it happened a lot faster when they first entered the ship than later, when it was important to the plot.
Yes.
Because comedic timing is a lot faster than plot timing. But anyway, also, if there's no gravity and something is jumping at you and you shoot them, the blood's going some direction. It might not come at you, it might not go that, it's going some direction. It's going out somewhere, and it's burning a hole through the ship somewhere. It is not spinning. It's not sticking. It had momentum. The momentum it's carrying it some direction.
Yeah.
That was incredibly stupid. There was multiple things that just got really silly here and there near the end. Like, she's falling down the elevator shaft and the alien catches her for no reason. I'm like, that was silly as hell. Like, what? The alien would just let her die. Or if he's going to catch her on a skewer.
They didn't really elaborate on that one after.
He was just like, haha, gotcha. Now I'm going to kill you. It's like, what are we doing?
My mind went straight to, this thing's so smart, it wants her to fix this thing from crashing. And then kill her. I thought that was the direction they were going to go.
I don't know.
I don't, because it just made no sense. That was the only thing I could think of. And
then I will say the other last thing that had potential, but I just thought the execution was weird, was going down the hallway of the face huggers, where I'm just like, it felt like a scene out of like A Quiet Place more than Alien. And I'm not mad about it, but that was when I was like, this feels like we're in an amusement park ride, and this feels like that's when the movie started to lose me, and it continued to lose me through the anti-gravity scene, and then it was really the ending that saved that last 40 minutes for me.
That scene actually felt so much of towards the video games.
Yeah.
I loved that.
See, that's, once again, I guess, like, we're just coming from different perspectives here. I never played the video games, so I'm just comparing it to, like, the one thing I know, which is a negative thing, and then you're comparing it to the one thing you can relate it to, which is a good thing. So it's like, it dramatically changes how you feel about scenes like that. That's interesting. But yeah, I just really enjoyed how this movie looked, and for the most part, how it felt without the couple of outliers. It just felt and looked so refreshing, you know. And like I said, it's sacrilegious to say, but like, this is the most fun I've had watching an Alien movie outside of the original one. It really is.
Oh, you gotta see Covenant now.
All right. It's on the list.